Yo, what's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of In the Studio with Rob. I am Rob. Hey, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. And once again, I have my man with me, Izul.
Yeah.
Yo, how you doing, man?
Feeling good, feeling great. How are you?
I'm cool, I'm doing well. Hey, I want to thank everyone. They don't know and let them know also that we did our 25th episode last week.
25th episode. That's major.
Yeah.
Shout out to you for retiring and immediately giving yourself another job.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's cool though. I appreciate it, and hey, and shout out to you for all your help as my producer.
My pleasure, sir.
And shout out to my son DJ and Ryan for DJ does the editing for us, and Ryan, he does the social media for us. So I appreciate them. Yeah. So and everybody else has sent us topics, things you want to hear. So I appreciate you guys as well, and most importantly, the people.
We can't thank the people enough.
Right. Shout out to the people for just listening and tuning in with us. And again, we appreciate you guys. So, in keeping with some of the, what you said as far as retiring and starting another job, we're going to talk a little bit about transition in life. Not necessarily retirement, because I'm not talking to, a lot of the old heads that's on the verge of retiring or maybe have already, but I'm talking more, I'm going to talk a little bit about retirement in the sense of like you go from high school, not retirement, but you go from high school, you transition from high school to, the workforce or to college or maybe the military, and then even more transitions. We're going to talk about all the different types of transition. But I want to give you a little story though, real quick. When I graduated high school, I was 17 when I graduated. I turned 18 in October. However, in September of that year, I started working, and I was working. We were making door frames and window frames at this company. And the interesting thing about that was I was 17 years old, getting ready to turn 18, but I'm starting to work in this plant with everybody 35, 40, maybe even 50 years old. So I'm like, yo, now that's a transition for you. If you it's kind of like, yo, I go from high school with a bunch of kids my age to working with grown men. And again, a little different time, wasn't no women in there, it was all men. Grown men, they drinking, and at lunch they go out and have a drink in the car or whatever they do, and I'm like, I'm 18, I ain't even, I can't even drink yet, but and just the conversations that they have and things that I wasn't. It's like, I don't know that about they talking about. Man, they talking about their wife and kids, and I'm thinking about, when I get out, I'm going to play some ball and have some fun. They gotta go home to their families. But the transition in that and how I had to adjust my life or my train of thought to even deal with them. It was so new, it was different, and it was unexpected. Because even though I knew, you leave and you want a job when you graduate high school, or if you're not going to college, that is, and I didn't go to college, so it was like, okay, I need a job. But I never thought I'd be working with a bunch of, in my mind, these old people, working with a bunch of old men. Now, they were strong old men because they was lifting some stuff that my young strength didn't kick in yet. So they were strong old men. But in reality, to me, they were like old men. and so I had to adjust to that. But, and just to to kind of play it forward now, is like, as for some of you guys, you're going to be growing and looking, going through different phases of your life. And the thing that you thought would happen, or the way you planned it, the way you thought it even in your mind, it may not turn out that way. So part of transitioning is being able to adjust to even what you thought it would be like, or how you thought the transition would take place. There's, like when you go to college, and I'm speaking to this as a father and having kids come back home, but they go away to college, living on campus, and then they come back home. So that transitioning, they transition to college. They adjust to being on their own. Nobody telling them what to do or where to go other than the teacher. I mean, but for the most part, you're pretty much doing your thing. Then you come back home, you transition back home, and now mom and dad is like, yo, man, you can't stay out all night. You can't bring that girl up in here in this room. You can't do this. You can't do that. And it's a shock to their system. And to your system, it's like, yo, I've been doing my own thing for a while. But what you fail to realize too is that you really, even though you've been doing your own thing, you were doing your own thing on somebody else's dime. So now that you're back home, you're doing it not only on my dime, but you're also doing it in my house. So now you have to readjust your train of thought to fit back in to what you left. Another transition I had, for me anyway, was, going into the military. I went into the Army, coming out of the Army. Big transitions. Going in, again, physically, I didn't think it would be a problem. And it wasn't. Physically, I can run, I can jump, I do push-ups, all that stuff. So cool. Mentally, and having somebody yell at me all the time, or I'm speaking more through basic, yell at me and trying to get me to forget some of the bad habits I have and take on their habits or the things they want to teach me. That was difficult. It's like, but it's like, okay, once you settle into, I got to accept these things that's coming on me and figure out how to best deal with it. How do I take in the information that they're giving me and grow and build off of it and become a better person? And I think that's really what a lot of transition times do for you. If you look at it in a positive light, it really can help you grow and become a better person. But the problem is, in most cases, we look at transition and especially we look at the negative of most things. Most people look at negatives all the time. So it's like, yo, how is this hurts, or this is bad, and this is not, I don't want to do these push-ups. I don't want to do this work. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that because it's hard or it hurts. As opposed to, if I do what I'm told and learn the things I'm supposed to learn, do these extra push-ups, I'll get stronger. I'll get stronger physically. I'll get stronger mentally. I'll get stronger emotionally. But sometimes I got to go through some of that pain in order to get there. But I have to change my mindset in order to deal with some of the tough things that's going to be coming at me. So how you handle your, the transitions will play a big, it'll play a big part in the outcome. I had, I went to about 8 or 9 schools growing up. From kindergarten to 12th grade, like 8, 9 different schools. One school only one day, but a lot of different schools. But what that caused, it was a transition. Every time I went to another school, I had to transition into that school, learn the ways that they do things in that school, learn the people in that school. It's a transition, but what it did was it made me so flexible in life that even when I went in the Army, it's like, yo, you're going here, you're going there. It didn't bother me because I'm used to moving. I'm used to meeting new people. I was not afraid to change. I wasn't afraid to do something different because I'm in a different environment. I looked at it kind of like every time I went somewhere new, I can reinvent myself. They don't know me. I can be whatever I want to be. I want to be quiet. I don't want to talk no more. I want people to think I'm very quiet and shy. So I stopped talking because they don't know. Eventually I have to, the real me will come back and I'll talk a little bit more, but I could do that. Or I could say, so it just gave me an opportunity to reevaluate myself and see how I wanted to live. And I think that's what we have to do when we talk about, those transition periods. Some of you guys are, we turning 25, and that's a huge milestone in some people's lives. You look at it and say, okay, well, I'm 25 years old. I can rent a car now. I guess that's one of the main things you can do. Or your insurance goes down a little bit. Big deal if you're paying your own insurance. So that's a milestone. It's like, yo, I made it to 25. And I think a lot of people look at that number and it's like, yo, that's a big number. 21 was a big number for his life because you could drink, or or you considered yourself, now I'm an adult. And then you have that number 30 where people's like, yo, my life needs to be better. I need to have something understanding about my life. But they're all just numbers, but they do play a part. And you should be looking at, I talked about before about how you plan. If you plan out things and you plan a way, then you're not shocked when things happen. They don't just happen to you, but you plan your life. You plan, this is where I want to be at 30. This is where I want to be at 25. This is where I want to be at 40. Not to say that you won't have things that come up that change those paths, but at least you have a starting point and you'll be working toward a certain goal. And then if you have to adjust, you make those adjustments. When I was in Philly and the kids were younger and I didn't get a job I thought I was going to get, but I got accepted for a job I never even remember applying for. But that job was in DC. So I had to pack up my family and move them to another state. One thing I realized is that kids are more resilient than adults in most cases. It's like they go and they find, it's like, yo, new school, hey, fine, whatever, I'll meet new people. Where I think, for my wife more so, because in reality, Philly was her home. She went away for the Army for a little while, but that's where she lived her whole life. So she had to adjust to not being around her family and friends anymore. And that transition for her was harder than it was for the kids. I mean, she would still drive back up to Philly every now and then, every 3 weeks or whatever it was to get her hair done because she couldn't make that shift quick enough. So, but again, even though she was excited about the move initially, or she thought it was a good thing, it was hard for her to really transition into that move. So, again, even when you plan something, it don't always work out the way you thought. But I think what you have to do is give yourself a little grace to get to where you want to be eventually. It doesn't have to happen. It's not like you wake up and you move to another state and then all of a sudden everything's perfect. I got it all under control. No, it's going to take some time to figure those things out. You got to figure out how things work here versus where you were. How are the people? How are the stores? How are, the taxes, all that stuff that you have to deal with as an adult. You have to figure those things out, and it takes time. But one of the things I've learned is that if you really want to learn, or you really want to be, be one of those people that can transition as smoother than others, then sometimes you have to be willing to ask questions. Don't just think you have to figure it all out by yourself. Sometimes you talk to people, like when we moved to Virginia, I didn't know where to live. I had to work in DC, but I was going to live in Virginia. But I'm like, I don't know anything about how far it is. So what I did was I called people that was already there, that worked in the office, and say, hey, I know you don't know me, but I'm coming to work there, and I was just wondering if you know any places I could live, and blah, blah, blah. Female there, she sent me a whole list of stuff. She sent me the areas close by. She sent me the schools in certain areas. She told, all the things I needed. But I would have never known that if I didn't ask the question. Because it was new to me. It was new. She had to move there and she figured it all out. I guess hopefully somebody helped her. But she was gracious enough to help me. And so while I was there and other people came, I was able to help them. So again, I think you have to be able to ask questions, whether it's about a move or a job, or it's about a school, whatever it is that you're transitioning into. Don't be afraid to reach out to people and find out more information. One of those transitions that kind of pop up on you that you don't expect, and it's a little bit harder, is it's a life ending transitions. No matter how much you think you're prepared for somebody to pass, especially like a parent, you're not. It's one of the things when it happened, it's kind of like, what's going on? It's kind of crazy. I mean, my mom died almost 3 years ago, and I still at times struggle with that because of what she meant to me and our relationship and the things that she taught me over the years. So that transition is taking longer, I guess, to be completed. If it's ever completed, I don't know. I'm better today than I was 3 years ago, but it's a process. And I think, luckily for me, I had, 55 years, with my mom, where some people, are losing their parents and loved ones at an early age. And that's even, more difficult for you, I think, sometimes. But just know that that transition is something that you go through as it works for you. You can't go through it at the speed or the way anybody else goes through it. Even with my mom, my sisters deal with it differently than I do. It is what it is. They got to figure their own path out for dealing with that. And so you will also have to figure that out for yourself. How do you deal with the loss of someone? However you need to. But just know that it's not the end of you. You just got to figure out how to deal with it so that you can continue to move forward. So, and not to stay on that too long, I want to kind of shift to marriage, another transition. You've been living by yourself or living with your parents or, living with a friend or whatever you was doing, roommates. And then you decide to take on a wife or a husband. That's a transition for your behind. And learning that person, as much as you say, we good friends, we've been knowing each other a long time, blah, blah, blah. When you get married, it's different. And that's your friend, but now y'all are also growing together. Y'all growing your finances together. Y'all growing a future together. And you're learning them over and over and over again on an everyday basis. That transition never ends as long as you marry. You're going to continue to learn that person and grow with that person. But the actual marriage part, moving into that transition phase, is hard for a lot of people because what they think, it's like a lot of people don't understand. When I get married, I shouldn't be doing the same thing that I was doing when I was single. Meaning, I can't just stay out all night no more because I got a wife. I can't, go everywhere my boys want to go when they want to go because I got a wife. I have to take her feeling into consideration before I make certain decisions and things that I do. I need to talk to her about it. And that's hard if you've been doing life by yourself for any period of time. Because now,
because the transition of not just your behaviors, but your mindset too.
Right. It's all about your mind. Your behaviors will adjust to your mind, but the problem is we can't fix our mind quick enough for our so our behaviors continue while we're working on our mind. And it's like, why do I forgot to call her again and tell her I was going to be late, or tell her I was working late, or tell her I was going to the gym afterward. I forgot. And you don't do it necessarily on purpose. It's just that I got to get used to it because that's something that I've never done before. Even when I was in high school, I didn't have to call my mom and tell her I wasn't coming straight home. Because in high school, she didn't care if I came straight home. She trusted me, and she knows for what she put in me that I was going to do the right thing and come home when it was time. So now, as I'm an adult, I've been doing this for my whole, meal teens and into my adulthood. Now I got a wife, and I'm like, I got to call her. I'm grown. I do what I want to do. And it has nothing to do with you being grown. You still grown. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with common courtesy. Because this person is concerned about me, or this person has plans to, at least I can do is let them know what I'm doing and see if it interferes with what they were planning to do. Because now it's not just me. But that's a hard transition for a lot of people, and it takes time. That's why you also should talk to your wife or your husband about things that you're struggling with in the transition, and to not make it like it's such a bad thing. It's part of the transition. When you have children, another transition that you're going to probably struggle with, because no matter what, before, even if it was just you and your wife or you and your husband, you go to sleep and y'all wake up. You didn't have somebody crying every 2 hours waking y'all up. That's a hard transition. It's like, yo, what's all this noise? People can tell you when you going through, the mom, she pregnant and she going through these 9 months. It's still quiet because she go to sleep. You don't hear the baby crying inside her belly. That doesn't take place. So now that the baby is here and my life now is transitioning. Okay, now I'm not just a husband or wife. I'm a father. I'm a mother. I'm a caregiver. I'm a provider at a whole nother level. I'm providing for someone who can't provide for themselves. It's one thing to say I provide for my wife, but in reality, your wife grown, she can provide for herself if she needed to. And if she, she helps out one way, but either way, that's cool. But when you're talking about a baby, everything that child has or needs, it needs to come from the parents. And a lot of people struggle with this, like, yo, this is a lot. But it's just a transition that you get better as you have more kids, a little easier. You kind of figure things out. You understand that kids ain't, so destructible that if something happened, they're gonna break. You can put them back together. It's all good. But that's a transition. And I know, Israel, that you with your kids, it's like, think about the first time your son cried in the middle of the night. And did you even wake up? Or so it's kind of like one of the things where, do I hear crying?
I think with my oldest, I probably was more responsive to the middle of the night cry than my youngest. Like, each time, as they got older, or each new kid is like, all right, you be all right for like a little bit. But the first one, I'm jumping for everything. Every little turn, every little cough, like, oh, you all right? You all right? Yeah. After that, it's like, oh man, how long? Maybe he'll just go back to sleep.
Yeah. So, but that transition is now I'm not getting the sleep I need because I'm jumping up every time the baby make a sound. I jump up, or I move, or we move. And it's like, yo, we're not sleeping as much as we got to learn how to do this. Maybe take shifts, and even when kids get sick, like my youngest son, he had like he got scratched his eye cornea or something when he was in preschool.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And we used to have to get up, like my wife, we would take shifts. So she would, either if she stayed up at night, because every 2 hours we had to put these drops in his eye. So if she did it at night, then I would have to do it in the day, and then we switch off, keep switching off, like go to work for a couple hours, and then she go to work for a couple hours, and we had to do that for a while. But that's, when your kids are sick or when they going through something, that's a transition that you have to figure out as well. Whether you're a single parent or you mom and dad together working this together, it's still transitions because it hasn't happened before, or it hasn't happened in the way that it's happening now. So dealing with your children and those transitions, even the transitions that they go through, affect you and cause you to go through transitions. So their life transitions affect your transition, and then you have, let's say, your girlfriend and boyfriend, and y'all in love and y'all been dating for a while, and y'all break up, and it's a sad thing.
Oh no!
You're crying. You're down, you're depressed. It's terrible. I get it. But it's just a transition. I look at it like, look, if you break up with her or him, it's a transition for you to find the person you was really supposed to be with. So after you get that quick cry out, just think about, what did I learn from that relationship? Good and bad. I'll take the good forward and I'll leave the bad in the past. But you have to understand that those transitions, though, in a breakup, are real. Some people go into depression. Some people, go out and get wild. Really, that's probably a form of depression as well. You're just out wilding because you don't want to slow down because you miss your girl, so it's kind of the same thing. It's just how you handle it. But people go through those things because now my life has changed, and I thought I was going to be with her, or I thought I was going to be with him forever or for whatever, and now I realize I don't even want to look at her. And it's a hard transition. It's a hard thing to deal with when you looking and thinking about things like that. But again, we all go through transitions in life. It's hard. It's hard, but it should be expected. You're going to continue to transition for the rest of your life. When you get 40, you'll say, "Oh, I'm past. I'm halfway. Half of my life is gone." In some cases, people think of it that way. It's like, oh, half of my life is over and I'm looking for what's next. Or, you get to, in your 50s and 60s and you're ready to retire. Another transition. It's like you start having grandkids, another transition. So for your whole life, there's transition and there's different things that's going to take place. But again, if you're planning for some of them and expecting things to happen, it doesn't shock you. You can just adjust to it as you need to. And don't look at it as always such a bad thing. Transitions aren't necessary. Transitions in and of themselves are not bad. But how you handle it can make it a terrible thing. Now, I shouldn't say, because also some transitions are bad. You lose somebody, that's bad. But how do I handle it? And what is my way of bouncing back to get some type of normalcy in my life? And again, I would advise you, talk to people that's been through some of the things that you're going through. Don't look at it always like you got to do it by yourself. You make friends for a reason. Lean on your friends when things get tough, or as you transition into a phase of life that you don't understand. Lean into your parents or your grandparents or your uncles or whoever you need to. But don't try to do it all by yourself when you don't have to. Talk to people. Figure it out together, in a community. Because we're built to be in a community, we're not isolated creatures. God made Adam, say that wasn't good, and then he made Eve. So God always said, you should be together. People, we should be together. Then we have some kids. So you're built as a communal person, but the problem is we keep going into our shell and doing things alone and then wondering why we feel so lonely. So share your life with people, the right people. Make sure you're picking the right people. Don't just share your life with some knucklehead. But share your life with people that care about you and that want what's best for you. And then they can help you through those transitions. And then you also can help them through their transitions. So, with that, Israel, what you got, bro?
People have a question, sir.
Yeah, what's up, people?
So, what's something that you think, I guess, a piece of advice that you think would be universal through all types of transitions? Like something that they can do to, I guess, help themselves navigate through any type of transition. I think skill they can learn, anything like that.
Yeah, I think the first thing you want to do is make sure you understand what the transition is. Because certain things, and certain things you have no control over. But the ones that you can control, you need to figure out a plan to control it. But I think the problem is a lot of times we don't even really understand what our transition is. What am I transitioning from to? And if I understand, this is ending, so I'm going to what? What state am I going to go to? And once I understand that, then I can come up with a plan on how to handle it. But first thing you got to do is understand, what am I transitioning from? Understand your transition. Where are you transitioning from? And what am I transitioning to? And I think that will help you then, kind of make better decisions going forward.
Gotcha.
All right. So, people, I appreciate you. I appreciate you all. And again, 25 podcast. We appreciate you guys for checking us out. Hopefully you'll listen to us for another 25. And as Israel always say, what you say? What you tell the people to do?
Make sure you like and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend.
Tell them all. Tell them all. That's what we want you to do. We appreciate you guys, and we will check you out next time. In the studio, Rob, this is us. Peace.